crazy drunk man.
Okay, a little backstory. This was 1992-93. I was 18, just graduated from high school, and recently got married to my ex-husband. Yeah, I know, dumb as hell, but that's a whole other story. Anyways, I was working at a convenience store, one that specializes in ice cream as its main focus. I worked my way up from ice cream clerk to assistant manager. I had started my shift at 3 p.m. and had to close the store at midnight, but typically didn't finish till 1 to 1:30 a.m. I had some paperwork to do, clean, stock, etc. The clerk that was supposed to close with me had an emergency, so I was stuck doing the whole shift by myself. It was a fairly steady stream of customers during the afternoon, and everything went great. Forward to about 8 p.m., the customers started slowing down, so I was able to do some of my work. Then this man stumbles in about 8 p.m. and went straight to the beer cave. I could smell the alcohol on him as he walked by me. He was about 6'3" and dressed in a tuxedo. I made small talk with him, as it was just he and I in the store. He told me that he was at a wedding reception down the road and they ran out of beer. I made my way to the register and waited. I knew I had to refuse the sale because he was already inebriated. Anyways, he gets to the register and places the alcohol on the counter. I grabbed the cases and started putting it beside me, behind the counter. That was our policy. And I said to the man, "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't sell you this as you seem very intoxicated." Within seconds, he started screaming and yelling and threatening me that he was going to hurt me and torture me. Towards the end of the rant, one of my regulars walked in, and the crazy drunk man left my store. But before he left, he said very loudly, "I'll see you when you close the store, bitch." The customer that walked in stayed with me until the sheriffs arrived. They took a report and looked at the video footage and noted the car make and model and what he looked like. I finished my shift, start cleaning and mopping. I notice a car pull into the lot but stay at the far end, running but lights off, so I keep on mopping, not paying no mind to the car. I go to take the trash out, lock the door behind me, policy again, and realize the car is still there, and I could see that it was the tuxedo man from earlier in the evening. I about pissed my pants, threw the garbage onto the dumpster and literally ran to the store, unlocked it, ran inside, and locked it again. I went to the back and got the phone and called the sheriff's office and told them that the guy was waiting outside with his car running. They were there within mere minutes. Very small town. I stood in the store watching them approach his car, get him out of the car, and slap the cuffs on him. He told the police that he was mad at me and was gonna take care of me. They searched his car and found duct tape, zip ties, a loaded gun, and a shovel. The police told me he was beyond drunk, 2 times the legal limit. I was scared for weeks after. After that, the manager made sure that there was 2 people on at all times. Don't know what happened to him after his arrest. So crazy, drunk, tuxedo-wearing man. I definitely don't want to meet again.
My dad met an Australian serial killer.
Back in the 1980s, my dad and his buddy decided to travel the world. They went to a number of places, including Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, Australia, and New Zealand. It was in Australia where my dad and his friend were approached by a man. He was tall, about the same height as my dad, with black hair and a mustache. Now note that it was obvious that they were tourists. They had their backpacks on and a Canadian flag patch on each. A man approached the two of them and struck up a conversation. My dad says instantly he got a bad vibe from the guy. But for the sake of being polite, my dad and his friend, who isn't known for a sense of self-preservation, continued chatting to him. The man asked my dad and his friend if they had a place to stay. When they admitted that they didn't, the man said, "You know, I've got a buddy who lives just a short bit away. In fact, there's a whole community who love tourists. I'll give you two a ride." Dad instantly got red flags and they told the guy no. He seemed to get pissed and kept insisting, but Dad and his friend kept insisting that they would be fine. Finally, he left and the two found somewhere else to stay. Years later, Dad told me this story and I got curious and decided to do some digging. I went onto a Wikipedia page and I pointed out the picture of the man to my dad, and it matched. The man that they encountered was Ivan Milat, a serial killer who was famous for the backpacker murders. His first killing started in 1989, when my dad and his friend went to Australia. He has killed approximately between 7 to 12 people. I'm glad that my dad listened to his gut and didn't go with him. Otherwise, he would not have met my mother and later adopted me and my sister. I hate to think that my dad and his friend could have been the first victims of a serial killer. Also, if any of you are interested, here's the Wikipedia page on the backpacker murders. I also quickly decided to add another encounter that my dad had in New Zealand. Back in the 1980s, there was this cult-like organization called Centrepoint in Auckland, New Zealand. Dad and his buddy, a different one at this time, went there and they were staying in Auckland. This friend had a let's go do shit and see what happens attitude, which has gotten them into trouble in the past. Anyways, during their travels in that part of the country, they were approached by this younger man. He also struck up a conversation and then mentioned a commune that they could stay at, where they could find sanctuary and healing, or something like that. Dad and his friend, deciding to play nice, said that they'd think about it and asked for a map. The guy eagerly drew one up for them, and after a few more pleasantries, left. Dad looked at his friend and asked, "Were you seriously thinking about going there?" For once, his friend grimaced and repeated, "Hell no, that guy was creeping me out." I'm very certain that the two were approached by a Centrepoint member. Due to the region, time frame, and overall coincidence. I can't verify it was though, but I do have information about this cult. Here's the link to the Wikipedia page, and also this site. Needless to say, I know my dad never wants to meet either of these guys again. Update. I've received a few comments about this not being true. The guy probably looks like everyone in the 80s. It was a classic look for men in Australia back then, etc. So I decided to test this for myself. I copied the picture of the man and I took it to my dad's friend, who still lives in our area, and he's an overall great guy. I know for a fact though, my dad, and I have never watched Wolf's Creek. I showed him the picture on my phone and asked him if he recognized the guy. His memory is poorer than my dad's, but he knows I take an interest in human behavior, so this isn't the first time I've asked him questions about people he's encountered. Let's just say his poor sense and his gut feeling has gotten him into spots he's not fond of. I will write what he said, and I quote it. "Yeah, he was that creep that talked to me and your dad when we were in Australia. I mean, it looks like him. I'd know those creepy eyes. Let me guess, he was in a satanic cult or something. If that doesn't prove something, I don't know what will. I don't know how to put anything like sound bites or video in here, so all I have is his word typed out. I hope this counts as truth to you all. P.S. I still can't confirm the New Zealand cult guy. This is hopefully my last update. Due to some pretty shameless commenters and PMers, I decided to make sure that you can all be rest assured that this thing is legit. Here is the link to a Google Doc with pictures my dad took during his New Zealand Australia days. No timestamps though. They didn't have them on cameras around that time, and if they did, Dad didn't have one. Here's the link.